You're in news.
Yes,
What
sir.
is everywhere in news? What is the thing that is everywhere in all the newspapers?
Trump.
Trump, but more than Trump is the Associated Press, because they own the access to all the papers, right?
I didn't know they owned access to all the papers.
Well, almost. It used to be UPI, but then,
Right.
you know, we bought UPI in a bankruptcy sale, and I didn't want it. I got it, and then it was so old and tired that I let it go. But the Associated Press pretty much dominates the news, and they just drove a stake in Hillary Clinton's heart. Did you see what they did?
More the email scandal?
Yes, I mean, they had not the email, they had the foundation. They did a lengthy story on the pay for play and all this stuff and the access and the people who visited Hillary. It was very exhaustive, and the AP has been normally pretty much liberal, you know, Democrat versus conservative, and this time they just hit it. I think this was a death wound, and I think because every newspaper in the country, almost without exception, would be carrying the AP story, and they'd put it on the front page.
And we were talking about this in our news meeting yesterday morning, that the big story that the liberal media doesn't seem to be too interested in is her assistant, Uma Abedin, who, if she becomes president, would be her right-hand, maybe even chief of staff, who has very clear, strong ties to Muslim extremism.
Radical. She worked for a radical Islamic newspaper.
Yeah. And nobody is talking about that, and that's so crazy.
They're going to start doing it. I think it's a feeding frenzy. Once the blood gets in the water, the sharks begin to circle and the barracudas come in. But this story about Hillary and the foundation, the AP did a number on her, and it's going to be bigger and bigger and bigger. Mark my word, because they're just pervasive. I mean, you know, when the AP... We've got a feed with AP here on this news. Everybody's got them, you know, and that comes.
And it's great because you can use whatever they write. You're already paying for the service.
Oh yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's fantastic.
Well, that's something to keep your eyes on. But I think, frankly, that signals the end of Hillary. I just really believe that if Trump doesn't blow it and start all those rabbit trails, if he'll just stay on message, he's got this thing, and Hillary is going to lose more and more and more. But once the big timers, once the New York Times, the Washington Post, and others turn against her, bad news. Well, really serious news is taking place over in Italy. The town isn't here anymore. That's what the mayor of one town said after a horrifying earthquake struck central Italy last night.
The quake killed dozens of people, and the death toll is expected to rise. As Heather Sells reports, rescuers are racing to dig out survivors.
It happened at 3:30 in the morning local time as residents and tourists slept. People felt the magnitude 6.2 quake across a broad section of central Italy, but the towns of Amatrice and Accumoli suffered the most.
We need chainsaws, shears to cut iron bars and jacks to remove beams. Everything.
The race is now on to pull victims from the rubble. Rescuers are digging people out with shovels, bulldozers, even their bare hands in order to reach survivors before it's too late. For those who made it out, there are stories of miracles.
On one side, the whole wall fell on this side and did not hit me. On the other side, it fell as well and did not hit me, but fell just next to me, very close to me, and luckily it didn't hit me. Then the whole ceiling fell on my head. I just managed to get a pillow on my head, and I wasn't hit.
Italy is known as an earthquake-prone region. That's because geological faults run up and down the country.
This latest quake is already being compared to one in 2009 that killed more than 300 people and struck just 50 miles to the south. In Rome today, the Pope skipped his normal catechism lesson and led pilgrims in prayer for the earthquake's victims. Meanwhile, rescuers are hoping to find as many survivors as possible, and those who made it are struggling to make sense of what has happened.
We are living through this immense tragedy. I really don't know what to say. We are only hoping there will be the fewest number of victims possible, and that we all have the courage to move on.
Germany, Israel, and France have already volunteered to help Italy with rescue efforts and recovery for this region that has changed literally overnight. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Well, you think of Pompeii and Mount Vesuvius when it exploded and the devastation it wrought in southern Italy, down around the Naples area. So we just never know, but our prayers are with these people, and I'm sure there's enough aid coming in from governments to help them. Well, here at home, as I said at the beginning of the show, a bombshell report from the Associated Press about the links between Hillary Clinton when she was Secretary of State and donors to the Clinton Foundation. John Jessup has that story.
Thanks, Pat. More than half of the people who visited Hillary Clinton from outside the government when she was Secretary of State had given money to the Clinton Foundation either directly or through business ventures. The new report from the AP shows at least 85 out of more than 150 people from private interests who met with her also donated a total of $156 million to the foundation, and 20 of them gave more than $1 million each. Republican nominee Donald Trump attacked Clinton over the revelation.
Clinton's made the State Department into the same kind of pay-for-play operation as the Arkansas government was. Pay the Clinton Foundation huge sums of money and throw in some big speaking fees for Bill Clinton, and you got to play.
The Clinton campaign calls the AP analysis flawed and distorted. The AP responding that its findings represent the first systematic effort to calculate the scope of the intersecting interests of Clinton Foundation donors and the people who had met personally with Mrs. Clinton or had spoken with her by phone. Pat?
As I said at the beginning of this show, folks, this is devastating. It will be played over and over again, but remember, almost every newspaper in the country had this as a front page story. That is very pervasive. The AP has an enormous footprint, and then every TV station has an AP ticker or whatever they've got today to bring the AP, because they have a feed to every one of our newsrooms. And that story will take precedent over, and then Hillary comes out and says, well, it's not true, and then all of a sudden the AP says, oh, yes, it is, let's get some more, and then others begin to dig. It's the end of the line for them. I think Joe Biden is probably going to be polishing off his running shoes. John?
Pat, President Obama visited Louisiana to see the damage and console the victims of the deadly floods that swept through the state last week. The president's tour came after criticism that he waited too long to travel to the region. While there, he said the nation is heartbroken by the loss of life and promised that Louisiana residents were not alone. CBN's Operation Blessing is still on the ground, working to bring aid and relief to the area with more than 200 volunteers in the field.
The volunteers from Operation Blessing, in coordination, I guess, with Home Depot, those people have been awesome. I mean, just great people, honest, hard-working people, and very friendly, very cordial, very, I'm not sure how to say it, kind of in touch, sort of, with what we're going through. They respect that, and they've been courteous about that, and they've been very conscientious about, you know, our feelings and how, you know, what it is that we're dealing with right now.
Pat, as you well know, anyone can help. All they need to do is go to Operation Blessing's website at ob.org.
And by the way, we're not doing a photo op either. We're down there for the long haul. We came down early. We've been there ever since, and we will stay as that tragedy unfolds. I'm told it's about 60,000 homes that are devastated. The damage is in the billions of dollars. It is much worse than we realized. Since it's not a named hurricane, it hasn't gotten all the publicity, but more and more people are realizing this is a major, major disaster. And there's a very real possibility of more rain and more flooding, but those people are suffering, and Operation Blessing has been on the scene. And we appreciate the fact that many of you are volunteering or you're giving money. And it's Operation Blessing Disaster Relief, CBN Center. If you want to help, we're not going anywhere. We're there with them, and we're going to help those people from Louisiana recover from this ghastly tragedy. John?
Pat, for the past several months, Israelis have suffered a wave of terror attacks. What's been critical in keeping the casualties as low as possible is emergency response and having enough ambulances to do the job. Chris Mitchell shows us from Jerusalem how one organization is helping to provide first responders the tools they need to save lives.
Getting to the scene of a terror attack quickly is critical to save lives. That's why Jesus Ministries donated 3 new ambulances to Israel's first responders, Magen David Adom.
And this is a practical way of showing support?
That I believe is, because in my little survey that I did, in one way we can help the poor is by the need for blood donation and medical supplies.
The ambulances will make a difference beyond fighting terrorism.
Each one of these vehicles is providing services to hundreds and thousands of people every year. And by that we can deliver babies safely en route to the hospitals. We can resuscitate elderly people. We can support people with disabilities and then evacuate them under very good medical conditions and supervision to the hospitals.
The gifts demonstrate the growing relationship between Christians and Jews.
The ambulances are an important part of showing to the Israeli people the Christian support and love for Israel. This is one of the most important aspects of the ambulances. It shows to the Israeli people who often feel very alone that we are not alone, that God has brought these Christian people to support us and to lift us up. And this does that.
We're an isolated people. We're people, we're vilified, we're castigated, we're ostracized in so many corners of the earth. At the same time, once you can lift the manhole of the secret chambers, there are millions and millions that are supportive and love the Jewish people. Our job is to open those doors, to prize them open, to keep them open, and to make sure that the Jewish-Christian relationship is a continuing, beautiful, beautiful flower that blossoms and blooms for all the whole wide world to see.
One ambulance driver wanted to pass along a message to the Christians.
He said, tell them that each time I go out on a call, I feel that all of them are with me. And I have the energy to save a person's life and to provide health and safety to the people that I'm called to serve.
In the end times, Israel is going to be left all alone, as we read from the Holy Scriptures. And the only people who are going to stand with them, as it was in the past, will be the Christians.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Thanks, Chris. Pat, back to you.
Well, I think it's a given, ladies and gentlemen, that the evangelical community stands with Israel, and the Israelis understand it, that we are the best friends they've got in the world. And I'm just so thrilled that we have been part of it. Years and years ago, we had a hospital in Marjayoun, I believe, in southern Lebanon, and we supplied ambulances, we supplied X-ray machines. They didn't have anything. And the Israeli people didn't have enough money to help their friends in southern Lebanon. So we were there on the scene years ago. And it's good to see that the Christians in America and around the world are still there for Israel. And the Israelis know that they have strong friends. There are no stronger friends anywhere in the world than the Christians, the evangelical Christians. John?
Pat, here at home, a new study from the University of California, Berkeley has found the consumption of sodas and other sugary drinks fell by 21% in low-income neighborhoods in Berkeley. That after voters passed a tax on them in November 2014. The measure imposed a 1 cent per ounce tax. The study's authors say it shows the tax was behind the reason people consuming less soft drinks, but they also admitted there could have been other factors like a growing awareness of the problems tied to sugary drinks. The American Beverage Association has questioned the study. Still, the report may give more ammunition to people who are trying to pass similar measures elsewhere. Pat, do you think that's the proper prescription?
Well, you get more of what you subsidize and less of what you tax. So I think they were smart to tax it. If that's the way to go, 1 cent an ounce, so a 36-ounce big gulp. That's 36 cents.
That's a lot of tax.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people don't want to pay that.
Well, the lousy things cost $3 or $4 anyhow, so another few cents to the average person.
You never have pop, do you?
No, thank you. All right.
I don't buy it. But if I'm at the theater I'll have a Coke with my popcorn.
Yeah, you will. I have the popcorn without all the butter. The butter's what does you in. The popcorn's pretty good for you.